Yo, yo, yo. What's up? This is Cephros back again with another tutorial, and in this tutorial today I'm going to be showcasing Vital VST. Let me just pull up my chat on my phone. Give me one sec. Just pulling up the chat on my phone. All right. So, let me just do one more thing. All right. So I'm ready. Hopefully my vocals sound okay. Sorry for any lo-fi quality. I also don't have a webcam to use with my PC yet, so sorry you can't see my beauty and grace. But anyways, here we go. So this is Vital. This is not the free version. But the free version is basically the same. The only difference is that I can right click here and text to wavetable. But you know, I have the mid-level version, so I can only do like a 1 or 2 of these text to wavetables at a time or whatever. But anyways, it's a great synth. For being free, this synth is really, I can't recommend it enough. Let me just enable the keyboard here. So, download content. I'm sorry, I literally just installed this, so please bear with me while I download the wavetables. Glork made a bunch of these wavetables, which is another really amazing feature, because Glork really just kills it. I wonder if I get out of this, if it'll just keep downloading. So I'm just going to make a quick drum line while I wait. So I'm going to like, let's see, is it done yet? No. Okay, so I'm just going to make a quick drum line, or actually maybe I'll do a little preamble. So today I'm going to showcase a workflow that I have found to be pretty fun and efficient. And that workflow is making a patch and then duplicating that patch and then changing it. For those who aren't familiar with the terminology, patch just means preset. I just make a preset. A patch is just a synth with settings. So if I go to operator, tweak a few things, if I just tweak a few things, you know, change the algorithm. So that is a patch. Now I made a patch. Right? So we're going to be making a patch in Vital and then tweaking it and changing it. So I'm just going to, while that downloads, make a quick drum line. So I'll go into some samples and just grab some samples from my recent Kicks and Snares sample pack. That's kind of a cool kind of boom bappy kick with some nice high end. Let's see if I can find a snare to kind of match that vibe. That's kind of a cool boom bappy type snare. And then I'm gonna get a hat. So there's a hat, I think, in this break. So we could use that break and then just turn this into a sampler by right-clicking the top, and then I'm just going to select one of these hats. So we have a hat that we can make a pattern with, turn snap off so that I can get right up to that transient. And let's just put in a quick quarter note, or actually let's do eighth note hat pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So next I'll just select all these hats, hold control, this is a Live 11 feature, and give these hats a bit of random velocity. And then in the MIDI tab, go to velocity, pitch, and then give it a little bit of random pitch depending on the velocity. And then I'll also make these notes a bit shorter. And then in the velocity, we have another velocity destination we can set. So I'll do I can't set the velocity to the decay envelope or the release of the envelope, so I'll get the expression control out. And this is a Max for Live MIDI device that allows me to map the MIDI functions to whatever, so I can then map it to the release. So I'll go velocity to release, and then we'll do like maximum 33, minimum 11. Okay, so now we're randomizing the pitch very slightly. We're randomizing the length very slightly, and I got them a little bit late, pushed them a little bit right on the timeline so that it's a little bit of a lazy hat vibe. Going for a little bit of a swing there. Let's see if Vital's done. Install's completed. So now I'm going to just click install, and boom, we're ready. So we have a whole bunch of different wave shapes to choose from inside these different folders. Let's go for Classic Blend. So right here, this slider allows you to slide through the different waveforms, and this gives you triangle all the way to pulse wave. If you click the 2D here, then you can see we can now go like this and see the whole waveform like in Serum. Let's go basic shapes. These don't blend for some reason, but the classic blend, maybe classic fade? No. I would like for this basic shape to be blended. Maybe if we click the edit button, we could then fade between them. So if we move this, we can see all our different shapes. We can click on these different frames. So maybe if I add modifier, you know what? We don't need to blend. We don't need to blend. So different shapes, basic shapes. Don't underestimate the power of the basic shape. Oops. All right, so this is our first oscillator. We then have another oscillator here, and I'll get basic shapes for that one as well. So now we have two oscillators, so we can tune them apart. And then we have a third oscillator, and we can also do basic shapes for this one. So if I were to make like a simple patch, I think it's good to start out with kind of simple patches sometimes. It's all to taste, obviously, but if I wanted to make kind of a classic Moog type patch, we could do like saw waves maybe to start out with. So if I set these all to saw waves and they all play the same pitch, so you can see there's a difference when I turn them on and off. It doesn't just get louder, and what that is telling us is that there's a little bit of variation here. So, oops. So if I go into 2D, see how the shape just looks the same when I move from frame 100 to whatever? That's not actually what's happening. If you look really close here, there's a little bit of variation. So if I turn these other two off, so there's a little bit of variation there. And so what we can do is if we have all three of these, we can choose a very slightly different saw wave. So that'll give us a nice thick sound, and then we can start to detune them from each other. So maybe I'll pitch one up. And maybe I'll pitch another one up. Cool. So what I'm going to do is make a basic patch and then start to duplicate and change it. So next thing what I'll add is the sampler here. So there's several different noises you can choose from, as well as add your own, or you can drag a sample into the sampler. I'm going to stick with white noise. So now we have two filters down here, and we can activate these. And in here we have all these different filter types that are really cool. So I'm going to start with like a ladder filter. And then let's just do maybe one of these dirty filters. And then the 12 or 24. 24 is going to be a little bit steeper. So let's go 12 for now, and then see these little handles up here? This will allow you to morph the filter to a different state. So by default, these have a certain routing. Over here is the resonance on the right. So by default, these have a certain routing. So I'm going to start off with a low pass and a high pass. And you can see down here, this is how you route them by activating these little buttons. And these correspond to the oscillators. So if I turn them off, we're not going to hear the filter. The oscillators are going to go straight to the next tab, which is the effects section. So this is the effects section. We'll get to that in a minute. So first we'll go voice, and then let's first send the noise to this high pass, because if you listen right now, that noise is kind of, in my opinion, a little bit too much. So what I can do is go sampler, and then we're going to be high passing that noise. So the next thing we can do is we can set the voices. So right now this would be a poly patch, a polyphonic patch. So we can play chords. Up here is where your output gain is. Whoops. I'm trying to learn the E minor scale, and I'm not used to E. I'm like very familiar with D, but not E, but I like E. So like, I guess we could start out with a bass, and we could just make a bass patch. So I'll pitch this back down. So the next thing we could do is filter these three oscillators. So we have this top oscillator right here. By top, I mean this is the highest tuning, 19 semitones up. We could maybe high pass that, so I'll click oscillator 2. So you can hear that sweeping around. And then the next thing I can do is route 1 and 3, which are these two lower tuned oscillators, an octave apart, and we can now filter those. So if this is going to be a bass patch, I'm going to want, well, not necessarily, but in this case, I'm going to want to put it on one voice, so that when I play another note overlapping, it'll just cut off the last note. So then I can go glide. And you can see it's restarting the envelope. So if I want that classic kind of Moog glide, I can put it on always glide. Actually, that's always going to glide the note, but it is still going to reset. So I could do legato, and now it shouldn't reset. So see it, even if there's a gap, it still glides, and I don't want that right now. So I'll turn off the always glide, and then we can actually change the shape of that glide. So we can actually probably detune these a little bit by a more subtle amount. So I guess I'll tune this 19 semitones up oscillator, this highest pitch oscillator. I'll detune it a little bit. And then this next one that's an octave above the root pitch, I'll detune that one. So that helps the oscillators get a little bit thicker and they start to phase against each other, which is nice. Next thing, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm driving these filters. This is because I chose some of the analog modeled filters, and typically with an analog filter, when you drive it, it starts to distort, and that will affect the clarity of the resonant peak. So I did that. It kind of mellows out the peak. So watch this. Hear how it kind of mellows that gnarly peak out? So the nice thing to have in a bass patch is a good solid sub. And quick side note about subs. So that would be just the lowest pitch of the saw wave that we have. And if I get a spectrum out, you can take a look at the harmonic series on a saw wave. And now watch what happens when I change this to a square wave. So I change that to a square wave. See how it's missing half the harmonics of the saw wave? A square wave is every other harmonic in the harmonic series. And so if you have a square wave for your sub oscillator or your lowest pitched oscillator, it really helps that sub sound fatter and louder because you have more space between the next harmonic. So it goes first, skips second, and then goes straight to the third harmonic. So it's nice to have, and you'll find this on a lot of analog synths, square wave as your lowest oscillator, and then you can kind of fill it in with saw waves if you want. So now this will sound like this. So next thing that I would do for this patch is turn on key tracking. So you can see key track right here on the filter. If I turn that up on both these filters, it will now follow the pitch I play. So that sounds pretty good so far. Let's give a gander to the effect section now before we go back and modulate those voices. So there's all kinds of cool effects in here. The one I'll open up right now is just the distortion. And you can see you can change the order of these effects, which is really useful. So let's just do a distortion. And then let's break some old school rules and put the reverb before the distortion. And let's just do a tiny bit of reverb. So I'll turn the mix all the way down and then just kind of blend it in. Let's give a little bit of size, so a very small reverb, a little bit of time, and let's try that. So it has that cool tail at the end too. So that's kind of a cool sound. I like having a little bit of reverb in there. But it is sometimes wise to then bass mono, just to make sure that that sub isn't stereo. You don't have to do this, but I find it helps sometimes. So first thing to think about when you have a sound is once you have a thick sound like this, it's good to add some sort of beginning or attack to the sound. So I might want like a little pitch envelope, and I could do that either with one of these envelopes or I could use one of these LFOs. Now you might say, oh, well, we only have 4 LFOs. We only have 3 envelopes. If you use all these, another one will pop up. So if I just start mapping these to things, see how another one popped up? And another one, and another one, and another one, up all the way to 6. So you actually have 6 envelopes. So I can now remove. Yeah, so you don't have as many as like in a synth like Phase Plant or like something like VCV Rack, but you have enough to make really complex sounds. So I'll just take envelope 2 and make it a little short envelope like this, with a bit of release, and I will map that to, I want it to be the same for all the oscillators, and I don't really want to go to the trouble to do all that, so I want to map it to the global pitch. And how do I do that? So if I go to Advanced, the Advanced tab, which is the 4th tab, I skipped over the matrix. If you're used to Serum or whatever, you may recognize this as like a normal routing matrix. But in the Advanced tab, you have the tune, and I believe I can map this to that. So you can see it's not really doing it very much. So I actually have to go to the transpose, which is like the coarse tuning instead of the fine tuning. All right, so now we have a beginning. That would be the attack. We could add a little bit more of an attack, and this is where the LFOs will come in. So if I want to put a little bit of attack on some of these filters, I could maybe use this for filter 1's cutoff. And we could have a pretty interesting attack shape like this. Just double clicking on the grid to make a point, and then you can bend these points. So this is pretty fun. Very serum-y. So we could have like a cool beginning, but you can see it's just cycling away. So I want to make it just work as an envelope. So I can either make it a normal envelope or a sustain envelope, and that'll give us a release, which is the next phase of the envelope we want to worry about. So I'll go to the sustain envelope. It's sustaining, but it's sustaining at the first, which is weird. So I think you can actually, we'll make another point here, and I think right click and then set start point. That's not what we want. How do I... Loop point. That might be cool. It might be cool to loop it. Oh wait, loop and hold? No. It's just... I don't know why this is the point that it's sustaining at, and if I right click, set start point. Let's just do normal envelope. I'll have to figure that out later. Maybe this is the slider I'm trying to think about. Yeah, so this is our, that's a little ambiguous, but yeah, this is our sustain point. Well, that's actually cool that this is here because we could probably modulate it. Like if I can modulate the sustain point. So that's pretty cool. We won't do that right now, but I kind of want it to sustain at the top here and then make this longer, so we'll make a whole bar. And then let's add a little release to the sound. We could maybe have it do some weird stuff on the release like that. And let's do a similar thing with LFO2 on the cutoff of this one. So I'll do sustain envelope, move the sustain part, make this a longer LFO. right, so we have a patch. We might as well roll with that for now. I'm just gonna get an EQ and just check out the spectrum with an EQ. All right, so that's pretty good. We could keep working on that patch, but like I said, I'm gonna show you how I like to take a patch, put it a certain amount of the way, and then duplicate it and change it. So let's listen to this drum rhythm. So the first thing I'm going to think about here when I'm making a beat is rhyme scheme. So right now, this beat is the same the whole time. There's no real rhyme scheme going on other than the call and response between kick, snare, kick, snare. So we do have like an A-B thing happening. That's why it is kind of enjoyable to listen to, but let's get a little bit more variation in here. So... All right, so now we have a little bit of a B, A, C rhyme scheme going on. Just for the sake of the tutorial, I'll change the color of these two. So these two are different from each other. These two are the same as each other. So that way these two rhyme because they're the same, and these two rhyme because they're different. Then beyond that, I put a little bit more space and a little bit more variation in the second one than I did in the first one. And you can see there's also a few more notes in these sections versus these sections. And what that does, it adds a little excitement, adds a little tension, and having these hats get more spaced out here at the end, that I did that just to add a little bit more tension. So basically just creating some momentum here. And now we have a template over which we can start to sequence some sort of bass line. So I could either play it in or I could just program it. I have a bit of latency going on in my project right now, so I'll just program it. So I'll just put like an E note to start out with. I don't actually like the way this reverb in here sounds, so I'm going to get rid of it for now. And I actually don't like the way this distortion sounds either, so let's listen to it now without those two. Alright, so I'm going to get a little bit of a distortion out here to get that similar effect that we had before. So I'll take a trash. I will group it with the Pro Q, put another Pro Q down here by control dragging, and this will be our dry chain, and this will be our kind of distortion layer. And then for this lower one, I can just do a low pass. This is your basic frequency split. I'll do it around 250, so we can have some of that lower mids come through clean. And then on this distortion chain, I'm going to put another EQ after it. And this after EQ, I am going to high pass. With Pro Q, if you double click below and to the corner, it'll give you a low pass or high pass, depending on what side you do it. That's a little workflow tip. So we'll high pass it at around 250 as well. And now we can start to distort this a bit. So that's nice. We could get a vintage verb and just plop that before the trash, and let's just do a very tiny reverb, so turning the size down. I'm gonna put it on like a smooth plate, which is a very smooth sound, carries tones nicely, and then let's go it on go now. And then just low cut it up here, maybe around 280 hertz. High cut it here. Maybe turn all these down a bit too, so we're getting a real tiny reverb here. And now let's listen to that. So that's sounding good when the note's playing, but the tail is a bit too long. So what I'm going to do is take a gate, and I'll use this gate by turning down the floor, the release, the hold, and the attack. It's going to be a very hardcore gate, and this will allow us to cut that tail short. So right here, maybe just a little bit of release. That's cool. It kind of rattles a little bit. Gates do nice glitchy effects when you make the settings very intense like this. So cool. Now we can duplicate our patch. So I'm going to get Command duplicate, or I'm sorry, Control duplicate, Command on a Mac or whatever. And then let's just take this note and put it here, delete this, and then we'll have this be our little response base. and this bass will be different. So let's make it different. I'm first going to listen to the whole thing, and then in my mind just kind of try to imagine when we get to this point what would be cool to respond to this with. So these are pretty consistent pitch, so it would be cool to maybe do a pitch bend. So first thing I'll do with this one is just go in here and look and see our pitch bend range. See here on the bend, it's only 2 semitones for the range. I want to crank that up to like about an octave. I think an octave is a pretty good range for a bass. And now I can go in here to the MIDI, go to MIDI control, and then the pitch bend will pop up as default of this list of tons of things. And then every time I do this, what I do first is put a point at the beginning and a point at the end. I always do that because if you don't do that, it'll get stuck. If you're working on your pitch bending and then you accidentally leave it like this, it'll get stuck and it'll really mess with your mind. So something to be aware of, just putting a point right before the end and right before the beginning will help you avoid that. It's just a good practice to get in the habit of that. So maybe we just do a nice big kind of a Hoover, like a Hoover bass kind of thing here. Why didn't that work? The pitch bend range I set to 12. Is something off here? Uh-oh, is this a glitch? I find that very strange that that didn't work. I'm gonna just right click at Vital's top and just unable the MPE mode, because I think maybe that's the problem. The MPE mode is enabled. Cool, so that was the problem. I wonder if I re-enable it, if it would work. No. So the reason I knew that is because Vital has MPE, and in Live 11, you have MPE in this third tab here. And what you can do is you can select individual notes and then do your pitch bending here. So that's cool for different applications, and I will not do that here. Whoa, why can't I see down there? Oh no. Okay, here we go. A little bit glitchy there. All right, so I'm gonna not do MPE for this bass. So first thing I would go to change is just the trash preset or whatever distortion you use. So I could go here and just change this preset by just changing the algorithm maybe, do like maybe a rectify. And then for a Hoover bass, maybe we'll make these filters more open up. Maybe some different tuning here on the oscillators. Maybe we'll do a square wave here for this highest tuned oscillator and turn it up more. kind of liked how it was before. Okay, so that's different enough for me to move on. So I could come back to it later. If you look at our rhyme scheme here, we have the same, different, the same as the first same, and then different from the second different. Or I'm sorry, the second different is different from the first different. But now we have one base phrase here. So what we can do is duplicate time, and then this one I'll change. So let's make this that same color just for the tutorial. Okay, so now we have the same, something different, the same, and then something different from the first different. And for this, I will duplicate the patch again. Now, it should be noted that this workflow does get CPU intensive. So if you're struggling with the CPU, just try to change inside the patch by automating it to be different from showcase to showcase instead of just duplicating the entire rack patch. But for me right now, I'm on a PC that's got a pretty solid CPU now, so I can afford to do this and not really worry about it. But maybe I'll demonstrate how I would automate a patch to be different. I just like doing it this way because then I can really change whatever I want and not worry about screwing it up or mess around with annoying automations so much. So yeah, for this, maybe this one I'm thinking could be wobbly and then have a different rhythm to it. So let's go in and do some wobbling stuff to this. I'm just going to listen to the whole phrase and then see what comes. So first thing I'm going to do is just get in here and change this pitch bend. Let's listen to what that sounds like. So that's cool. Little bit of rhythm in the pitch bend, maybe a little bit of trash change. Let's do something different from fuzz. Maybe these faulties are pretty good. Let's try like faulty transistor. So whenever a trash preset starts to break up, a way to like kind of keep that coolness without losing the body of your sound is you can just mix it in, and then here it has a filter. If you turn this on, you can kind of attenuate some of that gnarliness. Maybe on stage 2, change this distortion type. Let's see. Distort busted. So I like how that's breaking up, but I'd like to bring out that quality even more. So I'll grab a little bit of my OTT preset, which is the normal OTT, just tweaked a little bit. Maybe even turn off the low band and just worry about this high band. I'll maybe move this cutoff point of the high band up. So that's pretty cool. Maybe even put a delay. And I learned this from the EEPROM stream. He set his delay to be a default setting Haas effect, and I started doing that and using Haas more, and I've been really digging it. It's just 1 millisecond on the left and then something more on the right, and he said he likes the 1 millisecond on the left and 15 on the right, so that's what I've been trying out, and I like that sound. So with it off, and then with it on, so it sounds like super wide. That low stuff is sounding a bit gnarly though. So maybe play with this filter here. Or maybe move this cutoff. So this distortion layer has become just pretty much high-end stuff, so let's actually EQ it a bit differently. So that's cool. Maybe even a little grain delay, because those are like little spits of audio. Maybe a little bit of delay could be cool on that. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And then we kind of lost all our mids. So I could take the gate and the Valhalla and the trash and the EQ and control drag and duplicate it into its own chain here. And now we could call this mid. We could call this high. And now we can change the trash preset to be a little bit more mellow and not lose all our actual tonal content. So instead of faulty transistor, I'll do something else, like maybe I always just go for fuzz. Drive. Uh-oh, did I just change my... Oh, I did. I messed up. I changed the wrong trash preset, so I'm gonna switch these out. Let's change the mid. All right, so for this... Wait, did I just do it again? No, we have faulty transistor here, so that's the old school one. That's for this crispy top. And then for this one, let's do, yeah, something else. So one thing that's cool about Vital is the LFOs actually go into audio rate. So what I can do is click here on this and go into key track mode, and then instead of -12 semitones, I'll just go to 0, which will be the same pitch as our oscillators if they're set to 0. And then I can use this and I can put it on like a sine wave. Now this is going at audio rate. So what that means is I could map this to the level of the noise and it'll rattle kind of like a rattlesnake. And then maybe on this trash, let's do some other weird stereo effect. Could use like a spectral time. Spectral time could be cool. Uh-oh, this isn't working anymore. If we put the grain delay before the OTT, it'll bring out more of that grain delay. Let's see, what can we do with this spectral time? I'll turn the freezer off. Maybe after the trash? So that's why I love using gates, is because it does that weird crackling sound. I just love that. Full disclosure, learned that from the Cohen Sound Patreon. You should check that out. It's really good. Oh yeah. Okay, so we have a couple different sounds. I said I wanted this to wobble. So this is where sometimes it's easier to just render out the audio. So it could be cool to just sample this. I'm not going to freeze and flatten it. I'm just going to sample it with another channel. So let me sample that. And then maybe on this one, just have a utility at the end of the chain here, and then I could just make it quiet here. And then for this, I can cut this here. And then for this, I don't have to worry about any of that weird, I can just control it all a lot easier. So maybe I'll just get a filter, use the Rift filter and just do some wobs. I feel like this note's bugging me. I'm gonna take that note away. Maybe repeat this kind of thing again. In my head, I'm hearing a little like riser right here, like a tonal riser. And something I like to do is just get a drum, like a snare. I'll just get like a Mr. Bill snare, because those usually have a lot of nice tone. And I like to just kind of reverse it, cut it real short like this, turn it on warp texture mode, which is my default. I'll just open the texture mode all the way up, so I have the full range to work with. I'll just stretch this out a good bit, and then fade it, and then if I open up here, since I tweaked this grain size last, it'll automatically show up in the modulation, so I don't have to go here and choose it. And then I can like start high, and then kind of get the grain size to go large at the end. Could be cool to have a little pitch bend on this as well. The way I got to that pitch bend so quick is, again, just touching the parameter first and then going to modulation. It'll automatically show up in the modulation tab. I think maybe on this snare, ending the note, maybe even a little before. Yeah, maybe a little before, because we have a tiny bit of tail. And then for this last snare, we could do a bit of spectral time. Why not? Kind of feeling spectral timey tonight. Spectral time. So I'll just automate this to get wet for this last snare, but instead of automating the actual dry wet, I'll put the spectral time in a rack, create a chain with a dry and a wet, and then macro map the volume of this. That way I can put whatever in this rack and it'll still come in on this snare no matter what. So I can always swap this effect out for a different delay if I want. That's just one of the benefits of doing it this way. I also like to go into map and then change the maximum value to 0. Okay, so 0 dB. Yeah, so I'll just automate that to come in right after that fourth snare, and then I'll have it cut out at the next kick drum. Oh, I'm sorry. Not the fourth snare, the third snare. So select that, use my arrow key to just nudge it over. And then I want this to cut off at this next base. So I'll cut it off a little before, just a little before, just so we have a little few milliseconds of silence there. Then crank the feedback up, time low. So I like how stereo that is, but I'm just going to use an EQ8 to focus that stereo image in a different region. So do a low pass and a high pass, turn it to mid-side mode, and then on the side, I'll just make sure it doesn't get too stereo up top because it can get a bit much up there. Maybe a little bit of compression, like OTT. I'm gonna just use the Sephiroth Chill OTT, which is the low's turned off and then everything is just dialed back a bit. Alright, so we have now a unit. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars. And that's a cool phrase unit. So it's like a bunch of phrases within a longer musical phrase is delineated by the basses. And now we could... I did this on a track a couple days ago where I just then grouped that and called it phrase. Oops. So I called that phrase, and then just duplicate time, and then you can just duplicate all these patches by duplicating the group. And then I could call this, oh no, not responding. Okay, here we go. So delete MIDI, and then here's a cool trick. So if I select the end here and then just Command A and then group, I can put everything in a group and turn it off. That way it's not going to use CPU as much. I can see if I select one of these in a instrument group, it'll only select the ones in the instrument group when I Command A, so I can, or Control A, so I can select the actual instrument rack there and then group it, automate it off. And this is, I mean, this is the kind of like little nitpicky stuff that I've learned to do just to save myself time and energy in the long run when it comes to CPU. So like when my CPU starts to top out, even with this like crazy computer with 18 cores, I've still been like hitting high CPU levels. I don't know what it is, but so I'm just trying to get into doing more of this kind of stuff. So yeah, now we have another group, and actually what I'll do is delete that. And now that I've done that, now that I've done that, I'll duplicate this group again, but this time it'll have those little instrument racks and the automation already set up. Please work. Please work. Please work. Okay, cool. So now I can move this Control X, Control V, new phrase. Okay, so then I could go in here and change all these patches. So let's see. First, I'm gonna have to change that automation. So I'm just gonna, oh, no, I don't. Okay, so we're good. Actually, a 16 bar chunk of this could be nice, but I wonder what would happen if we just swapped roles. So what I mean by that is like, put this MIDI here, put this MIDI here, and then put this MIDI here and this MIDI here. So now they're like kind of swapping roles, like the call and the response has now become the call and the response. So the response has become the call. So let's hear what that sounds like. This might sound totally horrible, but... This needs that pitch bend, but how do I get that pitch bend in there? I guess I just have to unenable MPE and then put the bend up to 12 like I did with that other patch. And then this one is automated to be quiet here. So I will just drag this. All right, and then let's have a different sound. Whoa, why did that just happen? Could have like a... let's have a turnaround here. So no hats. Let's have that snare thing like kind of roll into the next bar. And then just do kick, 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 kick. And for a turnaround, it could be cool to have some sort of vocal, because the character of a vocal is just so different from anything else that it always just cuts through in a mix and stands out like crazy. So I'll go into my sample packs here, go to my spice pack, and downloaded a pack for $5 off Bandcamp the other day that's called Sound Clash something, Vintage Sound Clash 1, and it's just this sample pack on Bandcamp that has a bunch of Sound Clash stuff.
Hold on, selector, hold on. Now, dreadlocks. Now you come. Now hear this. Now hear this. Now hear this. Now for respect. Now listen tune. Selector. When the vibe's nice, it's nice. What do you say? Wheel up. Wheel up.
I kind of like how this rolls into the next section, but maybe like a fat plate. Modulate the dry wet, throw it up at the end here, and then maybe not all the way, but some of the way, pretty long decay, and then turn the low gain down and the low frequency up so that it's just like a high end kind of impact tail thing. A little bit of amp. Turn all these down. I'm just gonna attenuate the width and put the bass mono. Cut the sub out. And then maybe a echo, little echo Boy Jr. before the amp that just kind of dubs out. So you want to do like time mode on dotted, and then the note time be like dotted 8th note, and then the stereo mode do ping pong. But then I'm gonna get another one of these utilities and put it after this echo and just bring in the sides a bit with the width control so that it's not so on the sides. Maybe on this second kick, the vocal kind of like stretches out. That could be cool, like a texture mode, tight grain size, so it sounds very kind of digital. And then take a small chunk of it and just stretch it out like that. Uh-oh, pitch bend got stuck. I thought they fixed that in Live 11. Cool, yeah, so this next part, like obviously I could just keep going with this tune, and what I would do is just kind of change these patches to contrast these patches for like a dope switch up. So, you know, like duplicate time first and then go in here. First thing I could do is just start this on the snare instead. And then like do a melody, because we've been doing a single note kind of motif, so maybe a melody could be cool. And then we could just scrap this fill and have it be more consistent. Finish off that phrase. So for this sound, maybe I'll do less filter automation, or modulation, I should say. Let's do less filter modulation. Maybe do the same thing where we key track at the same pitch as our sub, and then do a sine wave, and then modulate the gain of the white noise for that nice rattlesnake sound that's so common in like halftime tunes. And then for this, I think I might want to do kind of like a pulse width modulation deal. So I can like turn this distortion group off for a second. Just listen to the sound on its own. So could have 24 dB on this top. So for pulse width modulation, I'm going to want some sort of pulse width wavetable. And I think I can I copy this to the next one? I thought I could like copy, I thought you could like I think there's a way to like copy the wavetable to the next one. I don't know, but instead I'll just grab that same pulse width wavetable, and then we want just a simple kind of triangle wave to the wavetable position. And then I'll use a different wavetable for this one's wavetable position. And just do like different speeds. I'm just gonna put this on seconds and seconds. maybe do like an envelope to this filter resonance and cut off. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see. Filter cutoff. Kind of want to invert this. And then for this filter, just make it kind of like a plucky thing. I'm gonna take it off trigger. Just put it on sync instead so that it doesn't re-trigger, it's just running. So something I do a lot when I'm using these synths is I like to use macros. So I'll take this macro and just put it to this resonance so that I can like turn up this macro and boost the resonance a bunch. And I'll also map that to the drive of the filter so that when I boost the resonance, it also boosts the drive, which will kind of mellow this gnarliness out a bit. And call this res. Oh, I thought I could rename that. Come on. Oh, wait. Yeah. Little pencil. So yeah, so I twid this. So yeah, over the course of this little melody, I could like have it change. And maybe like to really increase the intensity for this kind of switch up thing that's happening, let's let this ride out. And then move this. I'm thinking, what if there was like some sort of weird sound right here, like some sort of Foley thing, like I have this pack I got off Splice called like Tools. It's called Tools and Machinery, and there's some weird sounds in here. Yeah, something like that. Like that's unexpected and weird. I don't know about this last turnaround. I feel like the last turnaround of the drop, and I learned this from listening and studying the arrangement of Know or the Boys' Forlorn Hope. He did this really well, where the last like 2 bars of the drop, he just cut everything and just did the motif, the melodic motif. But we don't really have a melodic motif. Like I feel like maybe this is kind of like the melodic motif. So maybe if I took that and just put it on a lead instrument, like a higher register instrument. I don't know. Let's do Vital again and just quickly explore some of the more complex stuff. And I'll get into this more in future streams. I tried to do like old school patches today, just to keep it simple, but there's a lot of crazy stuff you can do with these warpings and like different spectral warping modes and stuff. So let's try some of that real quick. So first I'll do like 3 voices, so that 3 voices play but no more than that. Let's do like kind of a wobby type sound, and I have to pitch this up a few octaves. That's kind of like the motif right there. Let's do like a shimmer. I've been doing this thing with shimmer recently where you turn the size way down. Like you turn the size way down, put it on dark, and then put it on small stereo. I feel like I ignored the small stereo for a long time because I thought, oh, Valhalla Shimmer, ambient music, giant, huge, long reverbs. But when you have a tight reverb with this, it sounds kind of crazy. Like, check it out. Like you get all kinds of weird atonal stuff where depending on how you tune this shift. Let's try like -5 semitones, which is a fifth down. I'm sorry, it's not a fifth down, but it's a fifth in terms of the 12 notes relationship or whatever. I'm not digging that right now. Let's just do 0. All right, so let's play with some of these warp modes. There's some crazy warp modes in this. First, let's do some unison. Let's do like macro to the unison, and then let's bring the unison in at the end. So that's kind of cool. What if we layered, I guess we need a response to that. All right, that's kind of cool. Almost reminds me of like a SleepNet, like that one SleepNet song. What if we had like a plucky ARP thing? What if we had like a weird ARP thing? We still didn't mess with these warp modes, actually. Hold on. So there's all these cool ones like harmonic stretch, formant scale, vocode. I mean, they're all super cool. Let's try like inharmonic stretch. Ooh, let's do like a sample and hold to this. And I want like just a sample and hold normal and then seconds. And then let's map that same macro to the speed by a bit. And the same macro also to this knob by a little bit. That's cool, but it's kind of losing its character, so I'll blend it in with a normal saw wave. And it sounds so frickin' digital. I'm gonna put this free, or at least it's free right now, this Mellotron lo-fi thing. All right, that's a vibe. Let's do like. Oh, but it has this weird noise that you can't turn off, but I like the noise, so I'm just gonna do a gate. Real low gate. Okay, so then, for this plucky ARP thing, maybe we'd just do like a sine wave. And another sine wave. And then you can do some cool cross modulation with this one. So like you have like warp modes here. And then on this next one you have like your FM and ring mod settings. So let's do like a ring mod to oscillator 1. Let's take this MIDI. Let's put an ARP before it. And let's do arpeggio rate at like 16th. And then we can have the distance to an octave and then kind of modulate this steps parameter. And I want it to go down, up. I just want to go down. I don't think it's actually going down. That's kind of weird. But anyways, do ring mod. Turn this other one down. So one thing I've found recently playing with the IntelliGel the Instro CSL Eurorack module is like ring mod, where you modulate the pitch of one of these ring mods. So like we're ring modding ring mod 2 oscillator 1. So let's modulate the pitch of this ring mod source oscillator with like just a basic envelope with a pitch. I have to actually turn the level all the way down. And then actually none, and I set this one ring mod oscillator 2. Maybe a little bit of crystallizer on this. I haven't checked. All right, stream's still going. All right, just yeah, so maybe we could end this whole drop with this kind of motif here. Cool, yeah, and then this could like go into a little break and then just duplicate this drop right here. And then you could just take this entire bass group right here, which contains like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 patches, duplicate it. Hopefully your computer doesn't explode, and then yeah, change those. So yeah, that's the duplicate and change workflow that I've been rinsing on some of my songs. It's a fun workflow. It's not necessarily my absolute favorite workflow, but I have gotten some of my favorite tracks out of this workflow. It's a little bit more sound designy, a little bit more synthy. Personally, my favorite workflow right now is actually the sampling workflow, where I will just record long droning notes of a certain note, usually a low E or D note, for bass, and I'll just get a bunch of crazy movement going and a bunch of different synths first before I write any sort of the track, and I'll just record a bunch of these kind of drones, like long sustained notes and like the same pitch but wobbling, and then maybe some notes that are like pitch bending around a little bit. And then I'll have like basically a bunch of tonal stuff, and then I'll do this same duplicate and change workflow, but with Ableton Sampler and with all those cool sounds just in Ableton Sampler. And then all the sound design that I'm doing it's a lot more like cool effects and reverb throws, and usually using like separate sub sometimes. And that's a really fun workflow. It's kind of similar to this, but instead of like diving into synths and tweaking all these little parameters all the time, it's just working with all these sick sounds that are already sick, and you're just kind of like sprinkling salt on top, and the beats come out super fast, and it's a really fun workflow. So I'll probably share that one on my next workflow video. But yeah, I want to do more of these workflow videos because I feel like it's just really good for me. Like it's really fun to try to think. It slows me down, you know, because I have to talk in between these little workflow sessions that I'm doing on this drop stuff, and it kind of pushes me to go a little bit deeper. So I think that's really cool. Unfortunately, like, what if I finish this track and I want to release it? Like, it's already on YouTube. So I might have to delete this YouTube video if I actually go in and finish this track, which I very well may do. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird sharing my process like this on YouTube. So I don't know if this is going to be a forever video, but hopefully if you saw this, it helped you. And yeah, comment down below if it did. And until next time, I'm Sephiros. And yeah, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share with your friends. And until next time, peace.